here from our management advisory group. It's going to take about 45 minutes of your time to discuss the compensation study. If you have any questions, this would be the perfect time to ask those questions at this time while we have the experts here. Without any further ado.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I guess that's good enough for 10 o'clock in the morning. Almost morning. All right, so I'm James Brickman with Management Advisory Group. We are a human resources consulting firm. We're usually contracted, we deal primarily with government agencies, government agencies and nonprofits, churches, hospitals, school districts, county governments, city governments, those kinds of agencies. We're usually contracted by human resource departments that are doing a bang-up job on the everyday, day-to-day operations in the human resources area, but we're asked to come in and look at huge undertakings, monumental studies, studies that would tax the normal day-to-day operations. So our senior partners have been in this business for about 60 years collectively. We've performed well over 500 different types of classification and compensation studies, which is what we're going to undertake for your school district. However, we do perform other types of studies and evaluations, and we'll be happy to talk to anybody about those too, if the contract is right. So this presentation, we're going to look at the scope of the study. What is it that we're trying to develop a better understanding of because of the classification and compensation study? We're also going to look at your role as an employer. Do we have supervisors in the room? Okay. We'll also take a look at the role of the supervisor because it's important for everyone to understand both roles. And then we'll take a look at our tool, the Job Analysis Questionnaire, which is what we're going to use to gather information for the study. If at any point during this presentation, if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt at that time. If your memory is half as bad as mine midweek, you might not remember your question for the end of the presentation, so feel free to interrupt. So we've been asked to conduct a comprehensive classification and compensation study for Henry County schools. We're going to take a look at approximately 1,700 full and part-time jobs, which cover 120 different job titles. Now, the classification part of the study, we want to develop a clear understanding of the work that's being done by the people that are working for the school district. We want to understand how all the different pieces fit together to form that picture of work within the school district, so that we can better classify those positions, so that we can make sure that your job description is current and up to date, and it accurately represents the work that you do, and that the job title for that position accurately represents that work as well. Okay? Once we've developed that clear understanding, then we'll take a look at the compensation part. We'll take a look at the entire system and see how all those pieces fit together as well. That's the compensation part of the study. So there may have been some questions, or you may have heard questions about why teachers haven't been invited to this part of the meeting. Well, this meeting describes the information that we're gathering, the method of information we're gathering to do the classification part. Okay? Teachers are part of the study. They're part of the compensation part of the study. We're not going to reclassify teachers. A teacher is a teacher is a teacher. We're not going to make recommendations or reclassification for those positions. But other positions we'll take a look at and make sure that they're currently up to date. So this project is designed to ensure internal equity. We want to make sure that in understanding the different jobs within the school district, that there is a recognition that an administrative assistant in this area is equitable to an administrative assistant in the other area, or if there's an administrative aide that's actually doing administrative assistant work. We're going to make those types of classification details, or those types of classification recommendations. That's internal equity. And for market equity, we want to make sure that the compensation package that the school district is offering is comparable to other target agencies, so for peers and competitors. We'll be doing a salary survey of selected positions, benchmark positions we call them, and compare them to other school districts and other major employers in the area, so that we understand, or so that we can make recommendations of how the school district can be comparable to the market. The reason we want to do this is twofold, and it has to deal with retention and recruiting. Right? So it's difficult to recruit highly qualified candidates if the school district isn't offering wages and compensation comparable to the market. So we want to make sure that we're on par with the market that way. And it's difficult to retain highly qualified candidates and highly qualified employees if the school district is too far below market. So we're going to undertake a market survey so that we can compare the compensation packages here to the rest of the market. We're also going to make recommendations on FLSA, which is the Fair Labor Standards Act. We want to make sure that we can make recommendations on whether a position is considered exempt or non-exempt to that law. And that basically, if I can oversimplify it, deals with overtime. So if a position is exempt from FLSA, then it's not subject or eligible for overtime. So we'll make recommendations based on that as well. And then we'll also want to provide for human resources a process for evaluations of future positions. So if a new position opens up or a new position is created, we want to provide them with the mechanism, the tools, and the training on how to place that job within the new proposed pay structure. Okay? That's what the study is designed to do. We are not here to identify staffing levels. We can do a staffing study, but it's not the subject of this study. Okay? It's not the subject of what we're coming in to do with this contract. So we're not going to look at the level of work or the amount of work that's being done in a particular department and make recommendations on how many people it takes to perform that work. We're also not going to do a reorganization study. Now, we will take a look at the organization charts and make sure that they're current and up to date, but we're not going to make wholesale recommendations on whether Department C should be working in Division A to increase efficiency 15%. That's not why we're here. We do those types of studies, both studies, staffing and reorganization, but that's not why we're here. We're also not going to look at individual performance evaluations. Right? We're not here to look at how well folks are doing their job. We're not here to look at the personalities involved in the job. What we want to do is develop a clear understanding of the work and how it all fits together. Okay? So that's going to be the bulk of the information that we want. And lastly, as much as I wish I could wave a magic wand and make sure everybody gets a 45% increase, I want to tamp down those expectations. We cannot guarantee salary increases as a result of this study. What we want to do is make sure that the compensation package, the compensation structure is fitting for an organization this size and matches the market. Okay? So we cannot guarantee salary increases as part of this study. We just want to make sure that the structure is correct and in place. Okay? Any questions about what the study is designed to do, what it is not designed to do? Okay. With that in mind, we need to understand the work that you do. So let's talk about the role of the employee and the supervisor. In order to properly classify your job, we need to understand your job. Now, the courts have ruled that there are 2 experts for every job in the United States. Subject matter expert. The person sitting in your seat that does your job, and your supervisor, the person who completes your annual performance review. We need to get information from both of you in order to properly classify your job, in order to properly set that job on the new proposed pay plan. Right? So in order to properly understand your job, we need your input. Now, we're looking for 100% participation. We would like everyone in the school district to participate in the survey process. Now, everyone in the district does not have to fill out a survey. Teachers don't have to fill out a survey, okay? Because they're not part of the classification part. Now, if you're a member of a team of people, a whole group of people that does the same work and reports to the same person, you can sit down as a group and fill out one survey for us, instead of everyone having to do one. Now, if you're in that group and you realize, you know, I'm doing this, this, and this that these other people don't seem to have to do, fill out your own surveys so that we can capture that information as well. Okay? So if you're a member of a group, you can fill out one together. However, on the other end of the scale, if you're the only person in the school district that does your job, then it is vitally important for you to fill out your own survey. No one else can do it for you. And again, we need to properly understand your job in order to classify it correctly. If you don't fill out the survey, we run the risk of misclassifying that position. So employees, you in the role of an employee are going to provide to us the bulk of the information for your job. You know what you do on a day-to-day, week-to-week, year-to-year basis better than anyone else. Okay? But we have to hear from both parties. We have to hear from both experts, employees and supervisors. So we ask supervisors to review the questionnaires. And by reviewing the questionnaires, they can leave comments. They can't change your answers. They can't delete your surveys. We need to get information from both. And we'll take a look at, as we're looking at the different pages in the survey, why a supervisor may leave a comment on things like that. Okay? Any questions? Yes?
I just want to be clear that when you say classification, that's distinct from necessarily what salary scale you get paid on?
Classification helps us determine the placement of the new proposed pay plan.
Okay. Like I'm a school psychologist, but I get paid on a teacher plan, but
Yes.
I'm not a teacher.
Yes.
So then that you guys are distinguishing that since you kind of are saying, well, teachers aren't going to be reclassified.
Right.
Okay.
Right. But there may be a recommendation to reclassify your position, whether it should still be tied to the teacher's positions or not. That will be an issue for discussion. Okay. So again, we need your help to get information from you. We get this information through the form of a job analysis questionnaire. Now, how many of you think you can tell me about your job so that I thoroughly understand it and don't risk messing it up on the new proposed pay plan in 15 minutes or less? So you really want me to know about your job, right? Okay? If I had to do that, if I had to tell someone about my job, I'd want to spend as much time with them as possible so that they thoroughly understood everything I did so that they could use that as a determination on where that position should be classified. All right? So this is not something that you're going to be able to do over in 5 minutes or less. This is an online survey. Now, it is based online, but if you don't have access to a computer in the course of your normal workday, the survey can be printed off. You can work on it as a group or individually on paper, and then someone within the department can key that information in for us. Okay? We've already spoken to supervisors about that. We're speaking to supervisors now about that. You will also be asked to do this during the course of your normal workday. This is not something we want you to take home and do after work. Although, because it is web-based, it can be accessed anywhere, but again, we'd like you to access it during the course of your normal workday. It's web-based. Now, are the doors locked? Okay. It's 22 pages long. Now, before you panic, remember, we want to thoroughly understand your job. Now, honestly, 14 of those 22 pages are one question each. So you're going to read the question, you're going to find the answer that best fits, mark it, and go on. And remember I asked if you wanted to do this in 15 minutes or less. On average, it takes about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours to complete the survey. And because it is web-based, it's not something you have to do all in one sitting. There's an old adage, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Well, you can answer the survey 1 page at a time. Okay? Because we do understand there's this other thing that you have to do around here, your job, work. So we don't want to have to make you do it all in one sitting. So over the course of the survey, while you're taking the survey, while you're answering the questionnaire, we're going to be sending reports to Human Resources every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on the progress. Again, we're looking for 100% participation, but you don't have to all individually complete your own survey. So we're going to issue reports back to them about who's been playing nice and who needs a little gentle persuasion or sometimes arm twisting to get this done. So let's take a look at the survey itself, or the questionnaire itself. To access it, you're going to visit our website, macinc.org. In the bottom left corner, there's a button, JAQ, Job Analysis Questionnaire. You'll click on that, and it'll bring up a list of all the current and most recent clients. You'll notice that your school isn't listed there or on this screenshot, but it is listed. The survey's out there. It's available right now. Okay, so you're going to scroll down through the list until you find Henry County Schools. Click on that, and then click the Go button. So far, so good? Then you'll be challenged for your username and your password. In both cases, the username and the password is the same number. It's your employee ID number. Does anyone not know their employee ID number? Okay, good.
What if you're filling out as a group? Just pick somebody.
If you're filling it out as a group, then the person keying in the information can provide that. And then if you're filling out as a group, on the last page, there's a comments box. We ask that everyone who participated in filling it out have their name and employee ID number entered there. Excellent question. Thank you. Okay, so every time you log in, whether you do this in one sitting or 15 sittings, you're going to come to this page. It's the employee information page. Your name, your title, maybe your department, your work location, that will all be pre-populated, as will your date of hire and your date of promotion. If you have any questions about those dates, get with your supervisor, or get with human resources, and between the three of you, hopefully we can get that information ironed out. Now again, you're going to see this page every time you log in. But the first time you log in, or sometime in this process, I prefer it to be the first. We need you to set your supervisor. We have a listing of everybody who works in the school district. But remember, we're trying to paint this picture of what it means to work and how all these pieces of the puzzle fit together. We don't, at this point, know who reports to whom. So we need you to tell us who is the person who completes your annual performance review. To do that, in the middle of the bottom part, underneath the phrase your immediate supervisor, there's a drop-down menu. You'll click on that, it'll bring up the alphabet. Select your supervisor's initial for their last name. Click that, click the go button, brings up a list of all the employees in the school district whose last name begins with that letter. Find your supervisor's name, then click on the Set Supervisor button. You may log in once, you may log in 15 times. You only have to set your supervisor once. Now, if you select the wrong name, you can go through the process and reset it if you need to. To access the survey itself, regardless of how many times you log in again, to get to the survey at the top, there's a main menu button. When you click on that, it brings up a listing of all 22 pages in our survey. Okay? Your goal here is to get a check mark in every box. To get a check mark in every box, you visit each page. Now, if you're a nonlinear thinker and you want to bounce around, you can click on the go button for number 21 and then go back to 3 and however you want to fill out the survey. But again, the important goal is to get a check mark in every box. Fill in the information on the page, and here's your first takeaway from this presentation. After you fill in the information on each page, be sure to click the Save button. We'll talk about that in just, you'll see examples of that as we look at the different pages. Always click the Save button. When you do, it will give you the check mark. Now, until you tell us you're finished, you can go back in and edit any of the pages too. You can click on the Go button, regardless of whether there's a check mark or not. Go back to the information, do any changes, perform any changes, enter any changes that you want, and then again, make sure you click on the Save button. Okay? On this page, you can also print out a blank copy of the survey. Okay? If you want to work on it on paper, you're old school, want to work on it on paper, you can also print it out at the end. Please don't do both. Let's save some resources. You can print it out at the end so that you have a hard copy of all your answers as well. When you are finished, notice I said finished, not I'm going to come back to it on Tuesday or I'm almost done. When you are finished, click the Finish button. When you click the Finish button, it does two things. One, it locks you out. I mean, you can still go in and look at your answers, but you can't go in and change any of your answers. And two, it creates a link from your survey to your supervisor's survey. On the supervisor's page, on everybody's page, is page 5, where a list of subordinates, those people that have selected you as their supervisor, their names will appear on that page. When they click Finish, that will then become a link that you can go back to and review their survey, review their questionnaire. Okay? So that's what the Finish button does. It locks you out, and it creates a link to the supervisor's page. Supervisors, you can complete your survey today, click Finish. You won't be able to go back in and change it into your answers, but you will still be able to go back to page 5, and as your employees are clicking Finish, you can go in and review their surveys when they've done so. So you don't have to wait until the last day to finish yours and review everyone else's first. You can do that as an ongoing process. Now let's take a look at some individual pages within the survey questionnaire itself. The first one is job category, or what is your level of autonomy within the district? Are you a trainee or an apprentice? Are you an employee? Are you a lead worker? All the way up through, in this case, are you the superintendent? I know no one here is going to answer that because I just met them. Good job. Okay. So you tell us where it is in the organization, what level of autonomy you think you have within the organization, and then, again, in bold red print, be sure to click the Save button. Every page in our survey is a comments box. You're certainly welcome to leave comments on every page. We welcome that. However, it's not necessary. If you don't have a comment about an area, you don't have to fill in the comments box. So far, so good? It takes more time to set up a Facebook profile than it does to answer the survey. Okay. Peer level coworkers. Who are the other people that you attend meetings with if you're attending meetings? Or who are the other people in the front office with you? Or who are the other people that are your peers across the organization? This question is flexible. It helps us develop a better picture of how everyone is working together. All right. There's no steadfast definition here, but it's generally considered to be who are the other people that you work with. Okay. There's 5 spaces. If you need to add more, you're certainly welcome to click on the Add New Peer button so that you can add additional spaces. This page is the one that's going to take the majority of your time. This is the essential task page. How many of you can tell me what you do more than 5% of the time? That's what an essential task is. If it takes at least 5% of your day or month or year, we want you to list that. How many of you think you can figure that out and tell me that in 15 minutes? Not many people can. So here's the second takeaway. The first one was always click the Save button. The second takeaway is work on this page on paper or in a word processing document. Put together your essential tasks, which answer the question, who? You. What do you do? When do you do it? Why do you do it? How often do you do it? Okay? So it maybe enters data on a bi-weekly basis into a computer to generate payroll. It is an action verb, enters data, okay? It answers those questions. Now, most jobs have between 6 to 8, maybe 10 to 12 essential tasks. Now, what you're thinking, I did more than 12 tasks before I even came to this meeting. Okay? Think bigger picture. How do those tasks fit together? So, for example, I may put as a task, I organize special events. Well, in organizing special events, I have to schedule a room or rooms. I have to publicize the event. I have to contract with vendors. I have to secure public safety. I have to. All of those things fit together under that big picture, organized special events. How do your pieces fit together into a bigger picture if you have more than 12? Okay? And think annually. You may only have to worry about the budget. Oh, never mind. The budget is year-round. You may only have to do a task for 2 or 3 weeks out of the year. But it has to be accurately represented. We need to capture that. If it's more than 2 weeks a year, it's more than 5% of the year. When you get your tasks all thought through, you're ready to go, it only shows 1 box there, but there are many more boxes on that page. Don't try to fill them all up. Remember, at most 10 to 12 tasks. When you get your tasks entered in there, we'd like you to tell us the order of importance. What's the most important thing you do? What's the second most important thing you do? It may not be the thing that takes up the most of your time, or it may. So we're going to ask you also, what is the percentage of time it takes for you to perform that task? And we give you a great deal of control over how you report that. The default is daily, but you can change that to weekly, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, or even up to a year, annually. Okay? So we give you that level of control over that percentage. So remember, work on this on paper first, excuse me, and then put it into the computer, because if you're sitting there trying to think of the things you do, entering the data on the page, it doesn't know you're still sitting there until you click the Save button. And if it takes you longer than 15 or 20 minutes to do that, you're going to lose all your work. That would be extremely frustrating. That's why I give you the second takeaway. Do this offline. Do this on paper or a word processing document, and then go to the computer and enter that in. Any questions? Yes?
I have a question about the page before this
can be. We're letting you define it. What is your position?
I'm an occupational therapist.
Okay.
Some of my coworkers would be teachers, but I serve the county, so I can't see listing. So would you just put something, I see you have first and last names in their titles, would you do something, just say teachers or?
There is a comment box on this page, so you can put that
So
in there
just
as
put
well.
that in.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Or you can just put the title teachers and give an example. If it doesn't let you save it without a first and last name, just give an example and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Great question. For the camera, the question is, how do you define peer level? We've gone back a screen. How do you define the peers in your group? And it is a malleable question. We're going to let you define that and tell us. Okay? And the example was an occupational therapist who works with teachers. Could you just put teacher under the title? And then I gave my explanation for the answer. Okay. Yes?
What if you have more than one supervisor?
The question is, what do you have more than one supervisor? Does more than one person complete your annual performance review?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
For four executive officers in a position where I'm shared.
Question stems to the fact that the position is a shared resource between many different folks. If that is the case, then if you're unclear as to who completes your annual performance review, then ask them, who's going to review my survey? Who shall I set as the supervisor? I'm sorry, I can't give you a definitive
That's okay,
answer.
I didn't think you could.
Thank you, great question. Yes?
On the first screen, where we call for information in there, and it says, the date of promotion.
Yes.
For this study, what does that, how is that defined?
The question is, what is the definition of the date of promotion? And that would be the date that you began your current job. Okay? So if you were hired by the district in a different job, what is the start date for this current job? That's the date of promotion. Okay, yes?
Even if you're filling it out as a group?
Oh, yeah. Well, if you're filling it as a group, if you want to check your current date of promotion, you can log in using your employee ID and look at your current date of promotion and make sure it's correct. You don't have to fill out the entire survey, but you can double check your date of promotion on your own questionnaire. All right. Remember I said there were 14 pages where you had one question? This is an example of that. We selected data responsibility because sometimes people think if they don't use a computer or have to fill out a report or a form that they don't use data. And according to our definition of data responsibility, you do. And we'll take a look at the other areas here in just a minute. But these answers are rated higher. I know nobody can read it. Everybody's straining their eyes trying to figure out what it says there. These answers are hierarchical in nature. More people are going to answer a 1, 2, or 3 than they will answer a 9 or a 10. The example being data is, one says I compare or inspect items against a standard. Everyone who works does that. If you have to make sure the light comes on in your office, you're inspecting an item against a standard. If you have to make sure that there's paper in the copy machine, you're inspecting against a standard. Okay? Level 10 here says I formulate hypotheses, experimental designs, or concepts based on original research. Relatively few people do that in any organization. I have come across a few, so I can't say no one, but relatively few people do that in an organization. These are positions in which you're producing scientific research papers, being published in journals, those kinds of things. Okay? Relatively few people do that. And if more than one example fits, read through them, find the one that best fits. If more than one fit, give us an example as to why you think that is the case, and then click the Save button. Right. Now there's 14 pages like this. Okay? Those are the top 7 on each side. We're also going to ask about education and experience, but all of these areas, data responsibility, the safety of others, how many assets flow through your fingers in your department, all of these things are going to be taken into the job analysis phase, where we're looking at all of the different material and we're trying to properly classify your position. Okay? We're also going to ask about education and experience, and we do that on a different page, and we'll look at that right now. Education requirements. What are the education requirements that you feel are necessary for your job? Notice I didn't ask, what's your educational background? Notice I didn't ask what the current job description says about the job. What are the education requirements that you feel are necessary? We're asking you your opinion in this entire questionnaire. What's necessary for someone new coming in to do your job effectively? Is it a high school diploma? Is it a bachelor's or a master's or a doctorate? If it is a college degree or a technical degree, tell us what areas a person should have in order to successfully do your job. Is it a bachelor's in engineering? Is it a master's in social work? Is it a doctorate in chemistry? I don't know. You tell me. Okay? And then we ask for any special certificates or licenses that are necessary for someone to complete your job or to be successful in your job. Whether it's to get hired and then later achieve, or whether it's something someone needs right then when they are hired. If it's a state requirement, if it's a district requirement, those are things we need to understand as well. We take into account when we do our job analysis. Any questions? Okay. The next slide examines two different pages in the survey. Up to this point, we've asked you for one piece of information. Right? On these two slides, we want you to select all that apply. The first one is unavoidable hazards. Now, these are not inconveniences that you have in your job. If you're working in an older building and it's dusty and it's musty and it doesn't get warm enough and it doesn't get cold enough, I'm sorry, that's an inconvenience. Because if your job was placed in a brand spanking new office building with proper temperature control and proper lighting, those hazards would disappear. But first responders don't have that luxury. They work outside, they're exposed to extremes of heat and cold, they're exposed to bright light, dim light, traffic, noise, those kinds of things. Most of us who work in office settings are going to check none. There are occasions when others apply, but think carefully about those. If your job is in a new building, would that condition still exist? Okay? And then the other page is page 21 of the survey, where we're asking you about sensory or Americans with Disability Act requirements. What are the physical senses? Common sense didn't make the list. Sense of humor didn't make the list. But what are the physical senses that are necessary for someone to do your job without assistance? Okay? If someone can do your job with glasses, you're not going to check that. If they can do it with contact lenses, you're not going to check that. If they can do it with a hearing aid, you're not going to check sense of hearing. If they can do it with a prosthetic limb, you're not going to check sense of visual, of tactile acuity. We have things like color perception. Can somebody colorblind do your job? Most positions, yes. Electrician, not so much. Okay? Depth perception. What's the importance of being able to see depth and judge distances? Bus drivers, it's a great one. Me working in the office, typing on my little keyboard, not so much. Okay? Think carefully when you check these boxes. When you're checking these boxes, you're telling an entire group of people, don't even bother replying, we're not even going to consider you. And in this day and age, where we have a lot of veterans re-entering the workforce, really want you to watch and to be mindful of the boxes that you're checking. I'm not telling you not to check any of them. I'm just asking you to be very considerate and thoughtful when you do so. And there's a comments box where you can tell us why you check that, why it's important. Okay? Any questions about those two pages of the survey, or any of the pages up to this point? All right, the moment you've been waiting for, the last slide. All right, where do we go from here? What are the next steps? I understand you have a break coming up relatively soon. Normally, let me change that part of the slide too. We're giving you approximately 3 weeks. Most of our clients would get 2, but because of the break in there, it's going to be extended out to 3 weeks. So you're going to have until February 27th to find an hour and a half to 2 hours of time to chunk out and to answer the survey. Okay? And then I know it's not going to happen here. It's not going to happen here, but with some of our other clients, the employees kind of put this off until the last minute, and the supervisors get this mad rush of questionnaires they have to review. So we do give supervisors an additional week to review those. And then on March 7th, March 6th, we'll shut the system down and begin reading everyone's surveys and generating reports, classifying folks, developing that new pay plan based on the market survey. And then it is our hope, our plan is to have the report in the hands of the leadership, the school district leadership, and the school board, so that they can hopefully enact any of the proposed changes with the new budget year coming up, July 9th. Any questions? Now, after this presentation, I'm going to drive 3.5 hours back to my Asheville office, so you have me here now. If you have questions, please ask. No, yes?
So are y'all gonna email out a survey link, or do I just Google your company and?
No, what we do, what we provide to Human Resources is a one-page tip sheet. Be very careful how I pronounce that. Question is, how do we access the survey after the presentation? The answer is there's a one-page tip sheet that we've submitted to Human Resources, as well as an FAQ, frequently asked questions, on the JAQ, Job Analysis Questionnaire, that we've also given them. That weighs in about 8 or 9 pages printed. And Human Resources is going to send that information as well as the link to everyone that's part of the study. So it's maginc.org, but again, that information will be provided for you. Yes?
Okay, so this is obviously not an anonymous,
No, this is not anonymous.
okay? And how will the results of your study be shared with those who participated?
That's gonna also be discussed. We're still working, do understand this is a learning curve for all of us. So as we're going through this process, which is our first time going through this in a long time, we're gonna come to that point that everything's gonna be shared. First, of course, it goes through the board, and then we'll figure out how we're gonna get that information out to everyone else, to our employees. One way we'll all find out is when if we get a raise out of this, everyone will know that everything went according to plan. We will have a way of getting that back out to all the employees.
And again, there's talk of a raise, but we can't guarantee that.
Yeah, we're not guaranteed that.
Well, I understand your time is valuable, so I truly appreciate you coming in and listening